Welcome back to Big Riff Energy. It's everybody's favorite time of year, top 10 season. So these are the top 10 best metal albums of 2023. I'm aware it's the middle of November, but remember, if you ain't first, you're last. So here we go. Number 10, GodThrm Distortions on Profound Lore Records. This is a Doom album. It is an epic Doom album. It is funereal, yet melodic, so I would venture to call it melodic funeral doom. This features former members of My Dying Bride and Anathema, so we got some doom metal royalty here. The thing that makes this pretty unique is it's dripping with 90s vibes. A little bit of that can be attributed to the vocals, but it's definitely production, atmosphere, sound, tones, and vibe. Very 90s. Something about the production really reminds me a little bit of the Black Album, or maybe even Alice in Chains, that sort of stuff. So we have massive funeral-paced guitar harmonies and mournful vocals, but we also have some pretty rockin', almost blues, hard rock type riffs with super catchy vocal melodies and that sort of thing. It's a cool juxtaposition, mournful congregation type crushing doom stuff going into almost like acid bath, Alice in Chains headbanging parts. It's cool. It works. For fans of the aforementioned My Dying Bride, Anathema, maybe early Pallbearer, maybe even Alice in Chains. That's GodThrm Distortions on Profound Lore. I'm going to do something a little unconventional because I could not decide between these two albums for the number 10 slot. So tied for number 10, Wayfarer, American Gothic, also on Profound Lore Records. This album just came out, so I haven't spent too much time with it. Honestly, if I had more time with it, I think it would be higher on the list. But for now, it's tied with number 10. In simple terms, this is a black metal record. I would venture to call it a melodic black metal record, but that does not say enough about this record to accurately describe it. This is the horrors, yearning, and violence of the old American West, filtered through the lens of slightly progressive and melodic black metal. Or you could say it's black metal filtered through the lens of a oil tycoon. This is very American. And by that, I mean the genesis of America, the beginnings of American culture and music. It draws heavily upon traditional music like bluegrass, blues, even old spirituals, old country music, Americana. Yet it has the ferocious vocals and tremolo-picked atonal aspects of black metal. It's really all my favorite aspects of black metal and none of the stuff that drives me crazy about that genre. The playing and the writing is very unique here. Everything about it is unique. It swings, it twangs. We'll have a very banjo-like guitar part disintegrate and explode into a double kick, brutal black metal part with a Tom G Warrior. Ooh! We've heard traces of this in the past. The band Taka, however the fuck you say that. They've experimented with banjo parts in the context of black metal, but it's been very specific moments of very specific songs. And with American Gothic, we get a whole album of that, and it rules. They use samples to really solidify and paint the picture of this violent, dirty, debaucherous American West. It's a very unified, cohesive aesthetic and sound. Really creative masterpiece. I would say this is for fans of Dissection, Deathspell Omega, Mogla, how do you say it? Mogla from Poland, whatever, those dudes, creepy dudes. Cormac McCarthy, and There Will Be Blood. That's Wayfarer, American Gothic on Profound Lore. Number 9, we got Sorcerer, Reign of the Reaper on Metal Blade. This is traditional doom meets epic metal. From what I gather, this band formed in the late 80s and was only a little bit active, and then they really made their proper comeback and started to release full-length proper albums in 2010, around there, 2015. This is epic stuff. It's bombastic and melodramatic in a good way. It gets right up to the line of bordering on cheese, but where I still love it. It's very traditional, straightforward metal. with clean singing, really good operatic clean singing. I love these guys. I feel like they're criminally overlooked. They're playing straight up metal as good as any band that exists right now. This is for fans of Tony Martin era Black Sabbath. And in fact, Sorcerer recorded a great cover of the song When Death Calls from Headless Cross. You should check that out. Also for fans of giant European metal festivals. That's Sorcerer, Reign of the Reaper on Metal Blade. Next, we have a band that's been around for a long time, but for whatever reason, they're new to me. Gordo with The Orb. And this was put out by Season of Mist as far as I can tell. Could be wrong. This is highly technical, progressive death metal, and it is really technical and impressive, but they have a very distinct signature groove that they implement throughout the course of the whole album. And I would really say that's their most unique signature thing that they do. It involves expertly utilizing abrupt stops and breaks. They're grooving, stop. Grooving, stop. Wheelie, brrr, stop. It's a lot of fun. This is dynamic. It's very progressive, as I said, but there's hooks and there's parts that are catchy and there are songs. There's melody, there's brutality. It's all over the map, yet it manages to remain cohesive and totally unpredictable, but memorable. That's a challenging thing to accomplish, and they nailed it. This is for fans of really technical death metal. It brings to mind old Decapitated, Necrophagist. I don't really listen to that type of stuff, but I think that's what it sounds like. As far as stuff that I'm more familiar with, it gives me the same sort of feelings as Meshuggah at times, believe it or not. And there's sections that remind me of old Opeth in the sense that they go from really technical, brutal stuff to clean passages with clean singing and melody. This is a really engaging, memorable, classic sounding album. That's Gordo The Orb on Season of Mist, I think. Next, we've got a fun one. Moonlight Sorcery with... what the fuck is it called? Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle on Avant-Garde Music. I don't know that avant-garde is a way that I would describe this. It's black metal, I guess, technically, although in my book, at its core, this is power metal. These are power metal songs with black metal vocals and blast beats. It's ridiculous and completely over the top, but it's not a parody. And that way, it almost reminds me of why I loved The Darkness so much when that band came out. So extreme in what they are doing, so over the top, but with such a sincere love of the sounds that they're making and the genre that they're operating within. So what The Darkness is for classic rock, proto-metal, hard rock, 1970s and 80s melodic hard rock, I would say Moonlight Sorcery is that for progressive blackened power metal. Is that a thing? It is now. The playing is out of control. Everybody's playing their ass off. The vocals go so hard. The keyboards go so hard. There's a lot of stuff going on that normally I wouldn't like. Really over the top cheesy keyboards and really slick production. But these guys are so passionate about it and going for it so hard that you can't help but love it. This is for fans of Sons of Northern Darkness era Immortal, Children of Bodom, who I don't love, but Moonlight Sorcery channels them in a way that makes me love it. Giant European metal festivals. Oh, and castles. That's Moonlight Sorcery, Horned Lord of the Thorned Castle on Avant-Garde Music. Number 6, Outer Heaven, Infinite Psychic Depths on Relapse Records. All right, I'm going to make an analogy here. There used to be a show on Nickelodeon, I think it was called Kablam, but they had an animated segment called Prometheus and Bob. Prometheus is an alien from another planet with superior technology and intelligence. Bob is a caveman from Earth with no technology and no intelligence. Prometheus, much to his frustration, is constantly trying to teach Bob how to do things. And Bob inevitably comes in with his brute strength and lack of intellect and completely fucks up everything. Why am I talking about Prometheus and Bob? Because I think that situation is a great analogy for death metal. A lot of death metal these days is all Prometheus. It's super smart, it's super impressive, they're shredding, and there's no songs, and there's no brutality, and there's no breakdowns, and they're not fucking anything up. They're just showing you how smart they are. On the other hand, a lot of death metal these days is all Bob. There's nothing impressive about it. It's completely monotonous. It's all breakdowns. The vocals sound the exact same the whole way through. There's nothing remarkable about it, and it's stupid. Outer Heaven is the exact perfect ratio of Prometheus to Bob. They are shredding all over this album, but not so much that you get bored, not so much that you are getting your skull crushed in by moments of absolute ignorant brutality. In addition to having the perfect shred to ass beating ratio, these guys are breaking all kinds of quote unquote rules. They're doing all kinds of stuff that you're quote unquote not supposed to do in death metal. And guess what? That's what all the best and greatest originators of death metal did too. This album has sections of ambient soundscapes. It's got moments where the mix is getting so warped and phased out and manipulated that you think your head's gonna implode. It's got a section with a massive female choir vocal over blast beats. There is the typical atonal mayhem of like Finnish death metal and stuff like that. But there's also moments that almost remind me of Crowbar with how groovy and slamming and memorable they are. This is an incredible death metal album. It's the best brutal death metal album of the year. This is for fans of Morbid Angel, death metal from Finland, you know, stuff like Demolic. For fans of DMT, for fans of psilocybin, and the cryptids of rural Pennsylvania. That's Outer Heaven with Infinite Psychic Depths on Relapse Records. Number 5, Enforced, War Remains on Century Media. This is a thrash record. That's it. It's a really fucking good thrash metal album. Saw these guys play a festival in Worcester and was blown away. All my favorite aspects of Slayer and Sodom and really straightforward, aggressive thrash bands that don't really have clean guitar parts and technical progressive songwriting. It's just mean the whole entire time. So yeah, for fans of early Slayer, Sodom, Power Trip, that's Enforced with War Remains on Century Media Records. Number 4, all the way from Slovakia. How do you say this one? I'm going to say it how my dumb country ass would read it, which is Malocar Patton with Vertumnus Caesar on Invictus Productions out of Ireland. I love this band. I've loved this band for a long time. It's first wave black metal with some obvious Eastern European, Slovakian folky type influence. But on this album, they're doing a lot of different stuff. There are moments of this that are reminiscent of King Crimson. There are moments of this that are reminiscent of the Suspiria soundtrack. I would say it's traditional metal melding into first wave black metal, but with the ambition, production, and interlude type moments of a 1970s concept album or a prog album. As far as vocals go, my friend Hassan described them best several years ago when he said, "This guy sounds like a troll who is angry that someone stole his treasure." So imagine King Crimson jamming with Merciful Fate and Goblin with an angry troll growling and laughing and cackling at you. For fans of 1970s concept albums, 1970s horror soundtracks, Merciful Fate, early Judas Priest, and I swear to God, I heard some ZZ Top in there. That's Malocar Patton with Vertumnus Caesar on Invictus Productions. Number 3, we have Witch Hazel with their 4th album entitled Sacrament on Bad Omen. This is old school traditional metal, proto-metal, hard rock. A lot of melody, very catchy vocal melodies, great uplifting, beautiful guitar harmonies, well-structured songs. About all I can say about it. Lots of melody, it rocks hard, it's super catchy and uplifting. For fans of Thin Lizzy, early Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, and it reminds me of the mighty and overlooked Ashberry from Arizona. That's Witch Hazel, Sacrament on Bad Omen. I'm going to do something a little unconventional again because I could not decide between two albums for our number one slot. So in no order, number one, yeah, I'm skipping number two. I don't know why I didn't skip number 9, but I'm skipping number 2. Number 1, Majesty's Vast Reaches Unclaimed on $20 spin. The reason I said that Outer Heaven Infinite Psychic Depths is the best brutal type death metal record this year is because this is my favorite death metal record in general. This is melodic death metal, very melodic. It's heavy, it's tortured sounding, especially the vocals, very compelling death metal vocals, but I mean, so much melody in the music. It's beautiful. Yes, death metal can be beautiful. This is very obviously inspired by the first wave of Scandinavian melodic death metal. So this is for fans of Swedish melodic death metal. And this record is every bit as good as the best records of the early 90s Swedish melodic death metal movement. I put this right up there with Jester Race, Slaughter of the Soul, all that sort of stuff. Phenomenal album. Love it. Check them out. Majesty's Vast Reaches Unclaimed on $20 spin. Tied for number 1. I can't stop listening to this one. I love it so much. It gives me so much joy and excitement that someone is making music as nasty as this and with as much attitude as this. It's a dying art form. Music that sounds like it's being made by dangerous criminals that you really hope don't move in next door to you or walk on the same side of the sidewalk as you. It is mean. It is crusty. It is fuzzy. It is scary. They are playing in the pocket. Church of Misery, Born Under a Mad Sign on Rise Above Records. I've been a fan of Church of Misery for a long time. This might be my favorite record they've ever done. I love Houses of the Unholy. That's one of my favorite records ever made, but so is this new one. Church of Misery is the passion project, the love child of mastermind Tatsu Mikami. He's a bass player, but he writes everything, and he is a sole consistent member. This is almost kind of his solo project. He's got the original singer back, my favorite singer the band's ever had. He's got a drummer that is a hybrid of John Bonham from Led Zeppelin and Lil Daddy Joey Lacaze from I Hate God. This guy
is in the pocket.
He is playing behind the beat in a way that I haven't heard since drummers from the 70s. They got the guitar player from Eternal Elysium, so the leads are very much Sabbath inspired, but I think they're the most unconventional, compelling, unpredictable, dare I say, exotic sounding guitar solos that Church of Misery has ever had. This guy is playing stuff that fits perfectly in with the vibe of this band, but he's also branching out and bringing in note choices that we've never heard on a Church of Misery album. And Tatsu, of course, is just nailing this motherfucker to the wall the whole time. Records like this are few and far between these days. You can tell these guys are cranked up, playing together, live. Like I said, it's mean. It's got an attitude to it that you just can't fake. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Church of Misery, their whole thing is that every single song is about a specific serial killer. And then every album will also feature a cover of like an obscure 70s song, Sir Lord Baltimore, stuff like that. This album opens with the curious case of the Beltway Sniper. I don't know if any of you remember that, but this dude and this younger dude were shooting people in the DC area, sniping them out at random. This album has one of the best, most menacing, heaviest, exciting intros I've ever heard. You're changing a radio dial. You're hearing news reports of these snipers randomly picking people off. You're hearing a bolt-action rifle cocking and shooting off really loud, heavy-sounding rounds. You're hearing the guitar chugging at random, and the hair on the back of your neck starts standing up, and you say, "What the fuck is about to happen to me?" When the band comes in, they take you for a ride into the depths of hell. There's a lot of bands inspired by the first 4 Black Sabbath albums. For my money, no one does that better than Church of Misery. Not Sleep, not Electric Wizard, none of those motherfuckers can touch Church of Misery. And I like those bands, but I like Church of Misery more, and this might be their best album. For fans of the first 4 Black Sabbath albums, specifically Master of Reality, for fans of Bongzilla, Sleep's Holy Mountain, stuff like that. For fans of Dateline NBC, that's Church of Misery, Born Under a Mad Sign on Rise Above Records. And those are the 10 best metal albums of this year, the year of our Lord 2023. Drop a comment. What was your favorite album of 2023? What are some albums that I left off? There was only 10, 11 slots, so I know I left a lot of stuff off. I love the new Cannibal Corpse record. Oh yeah, and my band Spirit Adrift put a record out this year, and I'm gonna shamelessly plug it. Check out Ghosts of the Gallows if you like straight up
metal.
Cheers guys, thanks, and I'll see you next time.